Well, thanks so much for being here. Excited to talk today about Evmos and why we believe it's going to become the next frontier for EVM development. Um, so just a bit of context. It was great news last month when DYDX announced that they were migrating to Cosmos, because for the second time, um, for the sec for the second time, like an application from Ethereum migrating to the Cosmos ecosystem. But the first one, unfortunately, didn't manage to overcome the complexities of launching its own application-specific chain. So today I'm going to talk about how we can scale decentralized applications that live today on the EVM ecosystem by deploying them into the Cosmos ecosystem and allowing them to scale and mature into their own application-specific blockchain. So how has it been working so far? So all these applications, because of the modularity and composability of the EVM, allow them to just quickly go and deploy on different ecosystems. And they're looking for mostly different metrics in order to choose which chain they're going to deploy next. Like, for example, traction, liquidity, TVL, community, and especially support from the core team. But the main limitation here is that these applications need to track and manage every single ecosystem they're deploying to. So as there are even more EVM-based chains or even more layer ones, they're going to have to deploy and manage every single integration. So in our view, this model is not going to be able to scale for a long time because, as I mentioned before, there's an ever-growing number of these chains. We believe that, opposed to a multi-chain strategy, an interchain strategy, one where you deploy once and you're able to interact with all the different chains in the ecosystem, including EVM and interchain ecosystem, is going to be what makes sense. So in this case, you will be able to deploy to Evmos and then interoperate with EVM-compatible networks and Cosmos SDK networks through IVC, native interoperability, and EVM bridges. This is what we call interchain composability. The functionality for these decentralized applications to scale beyond just the EVM and being able to have seamless interoperability. But again, some of these decentralized applications in the past, when they're trying to grow and mature, failed to do so, like for example, the case of Aragon Chain, if you remember a few years ago, and also Compound Chain in the Polkadot ecosystem. And they're not succeeding because of the high complexity of building SDK-based chains. There's like a high technical knowledge on the Cosmos and SDK inner workings, SDK modules, and also Tendermint core consensus. You need to also bootstrap your community and your validator set. And you also need all the integrations that are very resource consuming. You need the core basic infrastructure, the Oracle services, the indexers, etc., to just bootstrap your chain. Because now you don't have the manual Legos that you're using Ethereum, where you can just go and deploy and then like from day one, you get your application up and running. And of course, all these business integration, business developer efforts that are really necessary to get all these integrations. So Evmos here is able to offer a unique opportunity for these smart contract and decentralized applications where you can find the programmability of the EVM plus the sovereignty and interoperability of Cosmos so that we can create a unique value proposition merging these two ecosystems into a single one. So Evmos, for the ones that are not familiar with us, is a fully interoperable fast vanilla EVM chain of Cosmos. That means it's IVC enabled, that aims to create long-term incentive alignment between developers, validators, and also end users. Evmos is introducing shared security as a mechanism for these applications to grow, scale, and mature, and eventually become sovereign using Evmos by directly renting security from the Evmos validator set. And I'm going to go through each of the steps and why this scaling mechanism for your application makes sense and why it's unique. So the first step is build and deploy on Evmos. So why would one application build on Evmos if there are like a multitude of EVM compatible chains? And of course, you can choose from a wide variety of layer ones. So Evmos is as I mentioned before, an IVC-enabled EVM that allows you to have native interoperability and also compatibility with EVM ecosystems. Also has a low cost for users. You can discover new cases that weren't possible before in other EVM chains. And you can also, as a project, get revenues directly from the fees from your users that are interacting with your application. You'll be able to expand your user base beyond just the EVM by talking directly with other Cosmos projects, and also the seamless user experience that the native interoperability and the EVM programmability offers. So let's talk a bit more about like the Evmos EVM. It's fully EVM equivalent. That means like you can just port over any smart contracts that lives right now on Ethereum or any other EVM compatible chain. But that's not all, because we also offer IVC, which is one of the main selling points of Evmos. You can have IVC transfers, and as soon we're also adding IVC queries, so you can benefit from talking to and using all the core infrastructure that will be deployed on Evmos, like Oracle services, indexers, etc. You'll be able to have contract calls as well, so that a non-EVM chain, like for example Cosmos Hub, Juno, Sommelier, etc., can pack an IVC contract call directly on the IVC data and interact with the smart contract on Evmos. We'll also offer interchain accounts and share security. The Evmos EVM will also have custom contract precompiles, so we can also define like IVC precompiles, staking, and other custom functionality that is not available on other EVM networks. And of course, we're adding additional functionality like Tendermint AVCI++, which will offer us better performance and better integration, and native liquid staking directly implemented on the protocol. You can also explore new use cases by deploying on Evmos. So for example, Sommelier, which is a non-EVM chain and offers coprocessor directly to Ethereum, currently works with Gravity Bridge, but by talking directly to Aave that will be deployed on Evmos, they'll be able to offer their users a mechanism with lower latency and lower transaction fees so that they can serve their users in a better way. Here you can see an example how their COX module for their Aave sellers can work directly by using IVC and packing the contract data directly via IVC and talk to these smart contracts. Evmos will allow all these use cases for all these decentralized applications. And of course, interchain accounts. You can completely forget about the user experience of switching the networks on MetaMask on Kepler, which is completely detrimental for the end user experience, especially from someone coming from the Web 2. As a user, you should only care where about your portfolio, the tokens that you have, and not where those tokens are at the moment. So no matter what recipient address you have, interchain accounts will be able to quickly route the tokens based on the topology of the network. So you can like send a transaction based on the fastest route, so lower latency or lower fees. This is able to create a massive UX improvements because now you can create smart wallets. And this is going to be able on Evmos so that you can interact native with other chains via IVC and also with the Evmos EVM. We also offer developer incentives as a mechanism to create alignment between all the different users. Now with Evmos, every time that as a user you interact with a smart contract, you'll be directly creating funding to the smart contract application. So and this completely shifts the paradigm of how these applications get funding in the first place. So you can deploy on day one, use the core infrastructure deploy on Evmos, and get funding with liquid Evmos tokens with 50% of the transaction fees directly streamlined to your project's wallet. You will be also able to expand your user base. As I mentioned before, we have native interoperability, and now you can benefit from IVC tokens represented as ERC20 and vice versa. So for example, here you can see use case from Diffusion is one AMM on Evmos that is able to offer pools with osmosis represented as an ERC20 and USDC bridge from Ethereum. So you can get additional liquidity from all these different Cosmos chains. And so here we're also trying to ease the user experience by displaying IVC tokens, ERC20s, and in all the different formats, so you can just go and transfer them to ease the user experience from these two Cosmos and Ethereum ecosystems. And of course, seamless user experience. Now you can use IVC transfers and all the interoperability functionalities directly on Evmos, so that you can send all your tokens using IVC transfer signing with MetaMask, which is ERC 721, standard that we're using for creating compatibility between these two different signing formats. And we also sped up the block time to 2 seconds to increase the user experience. So now, what about the traction? Now you decided to deploy on Evmos. What's next? How do you get traction? So we are launching the first ever dApp Store as a mechanism to create more engagement, additional discoverability, and curated content for all the applications that will deploy on Evmos. The dApp Store is a decentralized marketplace for developers and users, where users will be able to go and see all the DeFi applications, core infrastructure, validators, applications in the Interchain connected to Evmos, so that you can benefit from this additional tool to create a better user experience, especially from users coming from the Web2 ecosystem, because that's the way right now that they're used to interacting with applications. You can also have user incentives. So besides the 50% transaction fee that you get from every interaction with their decentralized applications, your users at the same time will be able to get liquid Evmos tokens as part of a completely decentralized mechanism for creating incentives. We're allocating 25% of the newly minted Evmos tokens so that we can incentivize additional usage for smart contracts that have been approved via governance. We have created a token model that is able to completely align every single user, so that you can create more growth and more TVL by having a mixture between the usage incentives, but also the developer incentives that you created. So that drives more TVL and more usage, so that we can create a flywheel of economic incentive alignment between all the different users. And now scale. What happens when you reach maturity? In the same way that DYDX reached maturity on Ethereum networks, and now you want to deploy into your own sovereign chain. And this is the main core value proposition that we're trying to sell. So, and this is often an understated problem, which is the business development problem of layer ones. So, scaling and deploying a new L1 is mostly a business development problem rather than a technology problem. Because you need to get the basic integrations. You need to get the Explorer, you need to get the wallets. Of course, you need to reach out to all the validators and relayers. And if you're deploying a smart contract compatible chain, you also need the Oracle services, the indexers, the RPC providers, the bridges, off-ramps, etc. And here Liam and our team has been leading all that effort. So how do you, as a new chain that has been deploying, are still able to grow and scale without having to duplicate any efforts in business development? And this is also relevant to the concept that we call EVM-specific chains. The same way that DYDX grew by deploying into Ethereum and then into Cosmos, we're often offering a mechanism for these decentralized applications to first deploy on Evmos and then grow into their own app chain that is specific to their EVM, to their use case. But they can also now maintain EVM equivalence. And still interoperate with Evmos, the Evmos infrastructure, the Evmos applications and services, and other chains in the ecosystem. Evmos will become the main infrastructure hub, where all the services and infrastructure, core infrastructure like block explorers, Oracle services, indexers, RPC providers, etc., will be natively implemented on Evmos. And new chains spinning out from the Evmos EVM into their own sovereign chain will still be able to use these through native interoperability. So here's how it's going to look like. You as an application create a governance proposal on the Evmos chains to spin out and rent security directly from Evmos. And so once that gets approved, you will be creating half of an IVC connection alongside with a Genesis state with your smart contracts, including the code, the storage, and the state, as well as the accounts and balances. And here's the main problem that I mentioned before, you don't have any of the basic integrations. You don't have any, as a new chain, you don't have any infrastructure. So how do you allow this new and fluorescent ecosystem of applications to grow on this new chain? With native interoperability, that means EVM to EVM interoperability and non-EVM to EVM interoperability, we will allow all these new chains to directly talk to the infrastructure that is deployed in Evmos. So from day one, they can still use the main applications and services that Evmos will provide as the infrastructure hub for the EVM ecosystem on Cosmos. And to be able to offer all these services, we'll be creating tools for user acquisition. Remember like the Heartspoon concept where you took like all this data and Heartspoon it into your own, into Ethermint back in the days? We're adopting the same mechanism, but for new chains in the Evmos ecosystem. We'll be also offering airdrop mechanics UI so that you can replicate our same airdrop, but for your own specific chain. And this is also going to be available for other chains in on the Cosmos ecosystem. So that you, for example, can select the staking eligibility, the liquidity provision eligibility, as well as selecting smart contracts on the Evmos chain according to Gosling meter filters that you define, so that you can create your own airdrop, exporting it to a CSV, and just go with one click. And we believe that this is also going to be hugely beneficial for the entire ecosystem, as we see a fluorescent ecosystem of EVM-compatible chains on the Cosmos ecosystem that is able to talk and interoperate directly, creating true interchain composability, and also more utility for the entire network. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have two, actually.
Yep.
Was Evmos funded by the Cosmos Hub? Okay. Are you guys planning, and then my second question would be, is Evmos planning on using interchain security from the Cosmos Hub?
No, we are offering our own interchain security to other chains in the ecosystem, especially EVM chains.
So I guess my third question would be, if the Cosmos Hub actually funded the Evmos development, why wouldn't you guys be using the security from the hub?
Because we are offering a unique value proposition where these new chains will be directly using core infrastructure from the Evmos chain. Our alignment with the Cosmos Hub has been mainly in the form of the airdrop, and we're also upstreaming a lot of the work that we've been doing directly to the Cosmos SDK. So we've been core contributors of Cosmos for a long time, and we keep maintaining like core infrastructure that benefits not only Evmos, but other chains in the ecosystem like the Cosmos Hub and any other chain that uses the Cosmos SDK.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it'd be wise if someone funded your development to like use the security from that.
Okay. We like our value proposition is offering these infrastructure and services deploying Evmos to other chains in the ecosystem.
Any more questions? One round of applause for Fede, please.